Welcome back to another edition of Gators Breakdown, episode 18. After Arkansas dominates Florida 31 to 10, definitely not the outcome we thought the Gators would have going to Fayetteville, but nevertheless, the offense didn't show up. Defense got worn out, and Arkansas really just ran over the Gators in that trip to Arkansas, where Florida, cannot control and take control of the SEC East just by winning that game with South Carolina coming up. That would have been a nice way to win, or it would have been nice to win that game with the schedule coming up and everything surrounding it. Going to Fayetteville, winning that game, and putting some pressure on the other SEC East teams to catch up. But this is Gators Breakdown podcast. You can find it on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, now also on TuneIn Radio. Many options for you to check it out. So if you want, like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, helps me out a little bit. So, like it, share it. A lot of people follow here. Glad we got to interact with a lot of you guys on Saturday. It was a lot of fun. Wish we could have been under some better circumstances. So now after the performance of yesterday, a lot of questions start to arise about this Gator offense under Jim McElwain, Doug Nussmeier. Definitely quarterback Luke Del Rio is not the guy to carry this offense forward. So when that was pretty much apparent what we saw at Arkansas. We'll go through, looking at the game, and then we'll answer some of those questions, I think, that we can really start to ask ourselves where with this Gator offense is starting to head under Jim McElwain. So, you want to look at stats right quick. Not pretty, folks. Florida was only 1 of 11 on third down after coming in about 50% and leading the SEC in third down conversions, only converting 1 of 11, only 13 first downs for the game. Compare that to Arkansas's 23. Arkansas wasn't that great on third down either, 6 of 14. That's okay, but it is what it is at that point. Moving forward, Arkansas 466 total yards against this Florida defense, who eventually, like I mentioned, just got worn out. They didn't play their best game. Don't get me wrong there. Arkansas, had some things working early. I think the biggest thing, and Marcus May mentioned it after the game, was Florida's aggressiveness is what really helped Arkansas a little bit. Arkansas's linemen were looking to they ran by the Florida defensive linemen, knowing they would be over aggressive, and just went ahead and went to the second level and went ahead and started blocking linebackers instead of defensive linemen. That happened a lot. Florida's aggressiveness, defensive linemen would run right by the Arkansas running backs, and it played right into Arkansas's hands. They changed their blocking scheme a little bit from what they showed on tape, and that was the outcome. Defensive linemen ran right by the running backs, and then but by that time it was already too late. The offensive linemen are blocking the linebackers. So I mentioned Arkansas 466 total yards, Florida 241 yards of offense. So what does that mean? That means Florida has failed to reach over 250 yards of total offense in 3 of its last 4 games. 241 total yards, people. 229 of that was passing. A lot of that garbage time. What does that also mean? That means Gators only had 12 yards rushing. 12 yards against a team who gave up over 500 to Auburn a couple weeks ago. Don't get me wrong. What Florida and their style of run brings to the table is much different than what Auburn and that run game brings to the table, with the tempo and getting up to the line of scrimmage, getting the ball snapped. And Arkansas is not that bad. That game just got out of hand. Don't get me wrong, but Florida still should have been able to muster more than 12 yards. The offensive line just nowhere near ready to play in that environment. They just did not show up. There was no punch. I mean, even true freshman Jawan Taylor, who we have praised all season, definitely to me had his worst game of the season. He was consistently getting beat off the edge there, but it was 14 attempts for the Gators for only 12 yards. 0.9 yards per rush. That's one silver lining. Florida only had 3 penalties. Its lowest penalty output on the road of the season. It didn't really matter. It was they finally got something right in this offense. But part of the reason, I guess you could say that, they didn't really have the ball a lot, 20 minutes of the game there, and less time for penalties. A little throwing a little shade there. 2 turnovers. Luke Del Rio's first interception. Trying to make something happen. Probably should not have thrown it. The coverage was there the whole time. But he's preached to get the ball out. That's what he tried to do. Ball gets tipped, and in return for a touchdown to get Arkansas on the board first. But it was his second interception. After converting a good third down to Brandon Powell over the middle, goes to take a deep shot to Antonio Callaway when the throw wasn't even close. That was, of course, not much happened before that to where, we could really point to Luke Del Rio being the quarterback the Gators need. But after that throw, I just really think that's kind of where the avalanche just fell. I think a lot of people right there were just done with what they were seeing with Luke Del Rio. Florida had its best drive of the game so far going, a chance to make it more of a game. Florida was only down 7, I think, at that point. So it was a good chance to tie the game at that point. And that throw was nowhere close. Threw it in the middle of the field where 2 Arkansas defenders were there. He throws it, more to the right, more to Callaway's probably outside right shoulder. And that play is there, and it's at least gives Callaway a chance to catch the ball. But what that play did, it just really signified Luke doesn't have the arm strength. He waits too long to throw the deep ball. Every combination you can think of Luke Del Rio decision making there, every combination leads to he's just a bad quarterback. He is not the game manager type of quarterback we thought we were getting with him. You can't. I don't necessarily think you can blame Jim McElwain for going that route with the defense that you have at Florida. I think you have to go. You're not going to play one of the 2 true freshmen in Trask or Franks to start the season. You're going to go with a guy who's got a little bit of experience there. But it didn't work out. He wasn't. The first game of the season against UMass, he was just okay. Played really good against Kentucky. But then he got injured, and ever since that injury, it just really seems he got worse. And I'll tell you another thing: people have tape on him now, and the offense wasn't really that creative with him. So with the more tape teams have had on him, I think they figured out what he can do, his limitations, which there are a lot of, and teams are really just eating it up right now. There's not a lot Luke Del Rio does good, and the one thing he did do good was the third down conversions. Even that, yesterday was absolutely terrible. It wasn't all on Luke Del Rio. 90% of it was, to me, in my opinion. I know, can you question coaching? Can you question execution? I think it's more execution than it is coaching. I said that all day yesterday if you were following on Twitter. But it's just I think the plays are there. And most of the time, the quarterback can't get the ball to where it needs to be. Sometimes the offensive line just doesn't block, and mainly that's the run game problem. The offensive line just not giving these running backs any type of room. But of course, blame can go everywhere with a performance like this. It's not really just laid down in one place. But I know a lot of people are questioning, how the direction of this offense and coaching under Jim McElwain. I still think it's more of a player issue, but that falls on him as well. And I mentioned the quarterbacks. Who do you play? Moving forward. I think, yesterday's performance, I think it warranted throwing Austin Appleby in to see what he can do. His decision-making can't be any worse than what Luke Del Rio's is right now. At least he gives you a deep threat. At least he's got, pizzazz on the ball where he can get it downfield. He's got the arm. His decision-making is not going to be any worse, people. Austin Appleby deserved a shot to go in yesterday. Now, question moving forward is, do you burn one of the red shirts of Kyle Trask or Felipe Franks? If you've listened or have kind of peeked around the program and you follow on Twitter, and now we know I've got a couple, insiders and I've put some sources here saying Felipe Franks says it has passed Kyle Trask and looking better so far since the season has started. The more he's been able to work with the coaching staff and this offense, doesn't necessarily mean he's ready to play. Doesn't necessarily mean he should be playing. Doesn't necessarily mean Kyle Trask, can't play either. But is it too late in the season to make a move and play one of the freshmen to build maybe for next year? You're still not out of the SEC East race. So I think that probably leads to Austin Appleby maybe getting a crack against South Carolina. But to me, if you believe one of the freshmen give you a chance to win, you play them. I don't care if you burn a red shirt right now. I don't think both of them are going to end up staying anyway. The one who gets picked and chosen. I mean, Trask may stay just because he wasn't highly recruited. So if he doesn't get the job, he may try and stick around a little bit. But if Franks doesn't get the job, he was highly recruited. He can easily leave. Not given the job. But it really leads to what do you do the rest of the season since the East is still on the line. You beat South Carolina and Kentucky beats Tennessee. You win the East on Saturday. It's that simple, but it's not that simple at the same time. You have any confidence in this Florida team beating a South Carolina team that's playing pretty well right now? Jake Bentley has come in, a true freshman quarterback, one who should be enjoying high school at this moment, and has completely turned around the South Carolina offense. And that's probably where a lot of the blame and a lot of the criticism of Jim McElwain is coming from. Will Muschamp has started a true freshman quarterback, and you see the results. Alabama went with a true freshman quarterback. You see the results. Don't get me wrong, they're a much better overall team in Florida in Alabama, but they're still starting a true freshman quarterback who's getting them in good position to win some football games. So, there's a lot of questions arising of what can happen starting with the quarterback position. It's an ugly, ugly situation. It's just really tough moving forward to know what Jim McElwain and Doug Nussmeier are going to do. So you go back, and we'll finish up the stats here for the offensive side. There we go, 19 of 37, 229, average only 6 yards. A catch, 6 yards a throw, completion, 6 yards completion, no touchdowns. I mentioned the 2 interceptions with a QBR of 6.4. The run game, of course, I mentioned how sad it was, 14 attempts for 12 yards total. Mark Thompson, your leader, 3 carries, 19 yards, had a 21-yard run, but that was pretty much a draw play where that was useless play pretty much. Callaway, 4 catches, 44 yards, average 11 yards catch. Brandon Powell, 2 receptions for 41 yards. Mott Fullwood had some nice catches here in the game, 2 catches for 38 yards. Hammond, Cronkite, Thompson all got involved. But it is what it is. That was a poor showing. The only touchdown comes from a Duke Dawson pick 6. It was not a good showing overall for this Gator offense. Like I mentioned, there's just questions, and more questions of what moves and what goes forward. I think McElwain really has to look in the mirror. He was brought when he was hired to Florida. A lot of people are going to defend him, and I tweeted this yesterday. A lot of people are going to defend him because he wins more than he loses. And for the most part, he beats the teams he's supposed to beat. Yesterday, to me, against Arkansas, that game against Arkansas was the first time that he's lost a game where, a game he should have won, where we thought he should have won going in. He was brought in to fix the offense. Yes, he wins more than he loses. Yes, he beats the teams for the most part he's supposed to beat. But Jim McElwain was brought to Florida to fix this offense, and it's not fixed. He's supposed to be this quarterback guru, and this offensive genius, if you want to call it that. And it's not happening. The offense at times looks worse than before he was even here. I think every question people can ask is a viable question. It can be asked. I think we're at the point now. This is, a season and a half, a little over a season and a half, where the offense, after Will Grier, just doesn't look all that great. Even with Grier, it didn't look all that great, except for a fourth quarter against Tennessee and a good game against Ole Miss. Every question that is thrown Jim McElwain's way about the direction of this offense is warranted. I think he really has to look in the mirror and what he can do to fix this offense. And the quote that's always going to haunt Jim McElwain is when he was hired, and he said he could win with his dog Clarabelle at quarterback. Well, is Clarabelle that good? Can we sign her up? because the Gators could use her right now if she's better than Luke Del Rio, Treon Harris. You could go back to, you have to go back to last year. We thought we would never see the offense as bad as it was under Treon Harris. At least he can make something happen with his legs. And at this point, Luke Del Rio honestly looks just as bad. Yesterday against Arkansas, I wouldn't have said that before. But cumulative review, leads me to believe he's no better than Treon Harris right now for this Gators offense. So a lot of tough questions can be asked. Where do the Gators go from here? With South Carolina coming up, a team that is hot. Your defense yesterday, I think, like I mentioned, played okay. Could have played better, but you can't ask your defense to be elite every week. Even Alabama has off weeks. Look at Alabama's game against Arkansas. They gave up near 400 yards passing to Arkansas. A&M made a game of it. They had their yards against Alabama. Not every defense, the defense is not going to show up elite status every single week. Your offense has to help them out. This defense did enough. When this was a game, the defense was still in it, and the defense was keeping them in it. It was the offense that just kept, leaving the field, putting the defense back out there, opportunity after opportunity. And you give an offense, no matter what offense it is, on most of the time, you give an offense time and time again, they're gonna make something happen. You have to look at Jerry Davis and the way he's playing. If every player on this Florida team had the heart he had, especially on the offensive line, that would be, a team full of energy, a team full of pizzazz, a team that's ready just to go out and take it to the opponent. And we're not seeing that. So, Marcus May, Alex Anzalone, there's a lot of, players who you can look to, who you can tell on the defensive side of the ball that they want to win. They want to go, but they're relying on this offense to help them out, and it's not happening. I think you look at what the defense did, and I mentioned with the run game and how Arkansas was using their running attack by letting their offensive linemen just get to the second level from the get-go. I think it really threw Florida in a tailspin a little bit until they adjusted. They did adjust till they just got completely worn out. But I mentioned in last week's podcast, Austin Allen, I thought he had a good chance to get going, and especially if the Arkansas run game got going. But Austin Allen that guy is tough, and he made some tough throws with pressure in his face. The Arkansas screen game was going. He had guys all over him with a couple screen passes, and they ended up being long gains for the Arkansas passing attack. But Allen was 15 of 26, 243 yards, averaged 9.3 yards a completion, one touchdown, and the one pick. That was a pick six from Duke Dawson. Austin Allen played good. I'll give it up to him. I thought he could play good. If you go back and listen, I thought the potential was there with the way Florida's physicality is in the secondary and the physicality of Arkansas's wide receivers. I thought there would be chances there for those guys to make some plays and to get Florida in some pass interference calls with the way they both sides play physical, and it happened. Like I mentioned, the Arkansas run game was where it was at for Arkansas. 26 carries, 148 yards, and a long run of 41 and 2 touchdowns for Raleigh Williams. That guy's a beast. He is a monster. He looks the status of an Arkansas running back. Devon Whaley, 14 carries, 66 yards, and that was the 2 leading rushers for Arkansas as a team. 49 carries, 223 yards of rushing for Arkansas. Drew Morgan had a huge game, wide receiver for Arkansas. 7 catches, 95 yards, 1 touchdown. Pretty much the favorite target of Austin Allen, and you saw it there. Jeremy Sprinkle, who I thought could really take off, did okay for Arkansas at the tight end position. He had a one. Allen threw to him where coverage was all over him. I think Alex Anzalone was on him, but it was a perfect throw, perfect catch. But Sprinkle, 3 receptions, 51 yards there. So that was it. 31-10, Arkansas over Florida. Not a pretty look. Many questions are starting to arise about the future of this season and the future under Jim McElwain. Another big takeaway from this game was the injuries. They mounted up for Florida. Center Cam Dillard doesn't look good. It was like he may be out for a while. Tyree Cleveland on a kickoff got hurt. He was carted off the field. That doesn't necessarily look good. Jared Davis, where his high ankle sprain, it looks like, maybe that was bothering him a good bit. A lot of those were when we saw him limping and saw him come off the field, were non-contact type of injuries. You could see him. He was crying on the sideline. You could tell he wanted to be out there in the field. I'll mention and say it again. Jared Davis is by far my favorite player on this Florida team. I wish we had about 22 more of him to go along with this Gator team. So yeah, injuries mounting up. Anzalone looks like he might have broken his wrist or his forearm, somewhere around there. He was in a sling on the sideline, so Florida could be at the top 2 linebackers moving forward for a good bit. I don't think Jared Davis would be out necessarily for the rest of the year, but with a high ankle sprain, you never know. Those things linger, so it could be, another, a time where Florida needs some young guys on defense to step up. If you look at Caleb Brantley, went down, looked like he was okay. CeCe Jefferson definitely came back in after he was injured on the first drive of the game. And I think that's about it as far as injury goes. I didn't necessarily write them down before I started this, but off the top of my head, those are the ones there that will be major for the Gators moving forward with South Carolina coming to town. So, mentioned, yes, South Carolina coming to town. Will Muschamp coming back to town. The team that fired him 2 years ago. He's coming in ready. South Carolina's got some confidence now. They've won 3 straight after they've put in their true freshman quarterback, Jake Bentley, in, who is probably right now the best quarterback in the SEC East. Yeah. Hard to imagine saying that right now, but he's playing the best out of any quarterback in the SEC East right now. So they're going to be bringing some confidence in. This is a game Will Muschamp wants to win. Florida needs to win. Last home game of the year, it has been announced it will be a noon kickoff on CBS. So what does that mean? That means Florida's last home game is a noon game, and a chance. It was a chance for maybe a recruiting spotlight type of game, but a noon kickoff is going to kill any type of atmosphere that can be made there. Night games just create their own atmosphere. I was kind of hoping for a night game there, but Florida losing to Arkansas there, that probably didn't help. And when CBS was picking their games, they had the first pick. They picked Georgia Auburn. CBS or ESPN had the second pick with a 7:00 game, and then CBS with their doubleheader had the third choice, and they picked Florida, South Carolina for that noon kickoff. So we'll dive into Florida, South Carolina later this week on Gators Breakdown with Joey V, and I'll have a guest from South Carolina. Will Gunter will join us. He has a radio show in South Carolina, so we'll record that probably late Monday and get it out on Tuesday with our South Carolina preview. But Arkansas put it to the Gators 31-10 and dominates Florida in every facet of the game. If you want to look at it that way, and starts raising some questions from fans about the direction of this offense and the program under Jim McElwain. This is Gators Breakdown. You can find it on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and now TuneIn Radio. Please like, subscribe, share, join, however you want to do it. This is your host, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. And like I mentioned, another podcast later this week previewing the South Carolina game. So for now, this is Gators Breakdown, and we'll see you guys later.